Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning to everyone. On behalf of the organizing committee, I would like to welcome all of you to our educational forum titled The Social Life of IPG Students, Challenge and Solutions in Building a Balanced Lifestyle. Today, we will be talking about something very close to our daily reality as a teacher trainees, the effort to find balance in our busy lives. Being an IPG student means living with constant deadlines, heavy coursework, practical reports, and at the same time trying to maintain friendships, participate in activities, and stay mentally healthy. We are expected to be disciplined, responsible, and professional. Yet we are also young adults who need social interactions, laughter, and the rest. This tension between responsibility and humanity is what makes the topic of today's discussion so important. Before we start, allow me to introduce our two distinguished panelists. First of all, we have Ashraf, a fellow IPG student known for his active involvement in campus activities and for his honest reflection about student life. He will be sharing experience that many of us can relate to. Welcome, Ashraf.
Thank you, guys. It's good to be here.
And next, we are honored to have Mr. Azwan, a lecturer and counselor with years of experience guiding students in emotional and social development. He has worked closely with IPG trainees in helping them manage stress, develop healthy habits, and grow into emotionally intelligent teachers. Welcome, sir, and thank you for spending your time with us.
Thank you, class. I'm happy to be here and excited for today's conversations.
Wonderful. I'm sure this will be a meaningful session for all of us. To begin, I want everyone to take a deep breath and think for a moment. Where your studies were on track, your mind was calm, and you had time for yourself and your friends. If it's been a while, when you are definitely in the right place. So let's begin by understanding the reality of this issue. Many people say IPG students face a serious challenge in maintaining a balance between academic and social life. Ashraf, since you are living this experience every day, can you describe what the typical life of an IPG student look like and what challenge you face personally?
Thank you, guys. Well, to be completely honest, IPG life is not as simple as it may appear from the outside. Our schedule is extremely packed. We have lectures from morning to evening, assignments from almost every subject, micro-teaching sessions, reflections, and practical preparations. When you add co-curricular activities, community programs, and personal responsibility, the day feels endless. For example, last semester, I had to prepare a complete set of teaching for my practicum while also finishing 2 writing assignments and group presentation in the same week. I would go to bed around 2 in the morning and wake up at 6. It wasn't sustainable, but at the moment, I didn't see any other option. I told myself that sacrificing sleep was normal, but soon I started feeling emotionally drained. I became quieter, less social, and even small mistakes made me frustrated. And that's just one side. There are also students who face the opposite problem. They spend more time with friends than with books. They hang out after class, watch movies, scroll through social media, and later find themselves rushing through assignments. So I think the problem is not only about being too busy. It's about not having control, not knowing when to stop, when to focus, and when to rest.
That sounds exhausting, but it's true that many of us go through that same cycle. We tell ourselves that exhaustion means hard work, but really it means imbalance. Thank you for sharing that. Azwan, you have observed students for many years. How common is this struggle to balance academic and social life among IPG students, and why does it happen so often?
Yes, it's very common because, in fact, I would say it's one of the biggest challenges I see every semester. The reason is quite simple. Teacher trainers often carry double expectations. They want to perform well academically, and they also feel the pressure to behave perfectly because they are seen as future role models. This creates what I call the perfection paradox. Students want to be excellent in everything, but perfection is exhausting. From the lens of social emotional learning, what's happening is a weakness in self-awareness. Many students don't notice when they are reaching their emotional limits. They continue working without realizing that their mind is tired. Some even feel guilty for taking a break, as if resting means failing. Over time, this constant pressure turns into anxiety or emotional numbness. Another reason is the environment. In IPT, everything is structured: timetable, attendance, evaluations, but emotional guidance is not always structured. Students are taught what to study, but rarely how to manage the emotional that come with studying. That's why sessions like today are important.
That's very important point, sir. Being told what to do but not how to feel about it. It really captures the silent struggle many of us face. I remember during my own practicum, I would push myself so much that even on weekends, I could not relax. I felt guilty for resting, like I was wasting time.
Exactly. And that guilt is the sign of imbalance. Resting is not resilience, it's part of productivity. When students learn to see rest as recovery, they perform better and feel happier.
That's such a refreshing reminder. Thank you. Now, Ashraf, when you said earlier that you became quieter and less social, did you notice how that affect your relationship with your friends or classmates?
Yes, definitely. When I became too focused on work, I started avoiding group outings or simple hangouts in the hostel. My friends thought I was being distant or unfriendly. In reality, I was just tired and overwhelmed. But the more I isolate myself, the more I feel misunderstood. It's a vicious cycle. You withdraw because you're stressed, and then the loneliness makes you more stressed. At one point, I remember sitting in my room late at night, surrounded by notes and lesson plans, and thinking, is this what teaching is supposed to feel like? I realized that I was losing the joy of learning. That's when I started questioning my habits.
That's such an honest reflection, and I think everyone here can relate to that feeling of being tired but still going. Azwan, when students reach that point, when they are emotionally drained but still forcing themselves to work, what happens psychologically?
That when burnout begins, burnout does not happen overnight. It's built slowly, like a small flame turning into a fire. When the brain receives no rest, it stops processing emotional properly. Students become easily irritated, forgetful, or detached. They start saying things like, I don't care anymore, or I just want to get it over with. That's emotional exhaustion talking. What's even more worrying is that burnout can change the student's perception of teaching. Some begin through associations, the professions, with pain or endless fatigue. That's dangerous because teaching should be a calling, not a punishment.
That's so true. The very thing we love can start feeling like a burden when we lose balance. Maybe some of you are experiencing this right now. If you are, please remember what our panelists just said. It's okay to rest and it's okay to ask for help. Now, before we end this first segment, I want to ask one more question, Ashraf. Based on your experience, what would you say is the biggest misunderstanding people have about social life among IPG students?
I think the biggest misunderstanding is that being social means wasting time. Some students think social life is the opposite of academic life, but it's not. Having a healthy social life actually supports academic success. When you spend time with friends, talk about your struggles, or simply laugh together, it refreshes your mind. I've had some of my best study sessions during informal group discussion with friends. So, instead of seeing social life as distraction, I think we should see it as emotional fuel. Without that connection, everything becomes mechanical.
That's beautifully said. Yes, I believe human connection keeps us alive and inspired.
And that supported by physiology too. Human social beings, even introverts, need meaningful interactions, social support, strength, resilience. When students have good friends and mentors, they recover from stress faster.
That's such a perfect way to close this first segment. We have learned that imbalance in student life is not just about time or workload, it's about awareness, mindset, and connection. To summarize, we need to remember three key truths. Rest is not weakness, social life is not distraction, and balance begins in the mind. Thank you. And now, as promised, we will move on to the next major segment of our forum, the cause of imbalance in the social life of IPG students. We heard personal experience and reflection from both of our panelists. We saw that many students either overwork themselves or get lost in distraction. But what exactly caused this? What makes it so difficult for us to live balance? Healthy lives even when we know it's important. Let's start with you again, Ashraf. Based on your own experience and what you have seen among your peers, why do you think so many IPG students fail to maintain a balanced lifestyle?
Thank you, Chris. I think the first and most obvious reason is the academic workload itself. IPG students have a unique type of schedule. It's not just classes and assignments. We have micro-teaching practice, practical observation, lesson plans, co-curricular activities, and sometimes involvement in community projects or competition. All this responsibility can make the week feel endless. There were times when I woke up thinking only about the next deadline. The stress becomes automatic, like a habit. We plan our days around assignments instead of around our well-being. That's the first cause. Too much work, too little sense. But beyond workload, there's another factor. Pure time management. Many of us, including myself, tend to procrastinate. We think I'll do it tomorrow, and then suddenly tomorrow becomes the deadline. Then we panic, rush everything, and stay up late. After repeating this pattern for weeks, it becomes a lifestyle of chaos. Another strong cause is peer influence. Sometimes we follow the wrong example without realizing it. For instance, when a friend says, "Let's skip tonight's study session and hang out," it sounds harmless at first, but it can easily become a habit. And in IPG, It's easy to feel guilty for saying no because we value friendship and teamwork. We don't want to be seen as an antisocial, so we say yes even when we're exhausted. Lastly, and I think this one affects almost everyone, is social media. It's both a blessing and a curse. It connects us, but it also traps us. You open your phone for 5 minutes and suddenly 2 hours are gone. I realized one day that I spent more time watching videos about study motivation than actually studying. The irony hit me hard.
I think many of us can relate to that, Ashraf. Sometimes watching others being productive on TikTok feels like we are doing something useful too. But you're absolutely right. Social media gives us the illusion of relaxation but often adds more mental noise. So, Mr. Azwan, as someone who's worked closely with students, what are your thoughts on these causes? Do you think these are the main factors, or are there deeper, perhaps to psychological reason behind this imbalance?
Thank you, class. What Ashraf shared is very accurate and honest. They are indeed the external cause: workload, time management, social pressure, and technology. But behind all of this lies something deeper: the mindset of constant comparison and perfectionism. Many students come to IPG with a deep sense of responsibility. They want to do well, to prove themselves, to make their families proud. This motivation is good, but it can easily become destructive when it's turned into self-criticism. Students start to make sure their worth based on performance. They think, if I do get an A, I am failed, or if I don't join enough activity, I am not good enough. This perfectly thinking creates chronic stress. It's not to workload that kill you in the belief that you must handle everything flawlessly, and the tragedy is that perfect often itself as ambitions. Then the culture factor. In Malaysia, especially in IBG, we are taught to respect authority and to meet expectations. That's positive, but it also means many students find it difficult to say no. When someone asks to help, even when they are tired, they say yes. When they are given more tasks, they accept them without questions. Over time, that builds emotional exhaustion. And finally, the digital dependence is not just about wasting time only. It's about how social media subtly shape our machine. Every like, every view, every follower become a small measure of self-worth. This causes emotional instability. We seek validations instead of reflections. So when you ask about cause, I would say the root lies in our relationship with ourselves. Students must first manage the thought before they can manage the time.
That's incredibly deep. Managing thoughts before time. It's so true that most of us try to fix our schedules before fixing our mindsets. Let's explore that a bit more. Ashraf, do you ever feel that pressure? That need to appear perfect or strong even when you are struggling?
Yes, all the time. It's like an invisible competition. Everyone around you seems so capable. They manage classes, join programs, get grades, and still look fine on the outside. You start to think, if they can do it, why can't I? But what we don't see is the exhaustion behind their smiles. There were times I felt guilty for being tired, I would tell myself, others are working harder. You have no right to complain. That mindset kept me from asking for help. I realized later that strength doesn't mean hiding your struggle. Sometimes strength means admitting that you're human.
That's a powerful insight, Ashraf. That strength is not about silence, but about honestly.
Absurd. I always tell my students, emotional honesty is not weakness, it's wisdom. The moment you can identify your feelings, tiredness, stress, sadness, you take back control, you stop being a victim of your emotions.
I'd like to bring up something else, family expectation. Some students tell me they feel pressure from home to perform well, to maintain scholarships, to make their parents proud. Do you think that's another cause of imbalance?
Yes, it definitely contributes. Many students carry emotional responsibility that their parents don't even realize. They feel like they can disappoint anyone. So even when they are struggling, they pretend everything is fine. Every time this builds silent stress. Family expectation can be positive if balanced with understanding. Parents must realize that growth includes mistake. The problem is when success becomes the only acceptable outcome. The pressure prevents students from taking care of their mental health.
I agree. My parents always knew well, but sometimes they don't understand how different studying at IPG is. It's not just reading books, it's planning, teaching, performing, writing reflections. They will ask, why are you so tired? You are just a student. But this kind of just is huge. I have learned that sometimes we must educate our parents too, gently, about what we go through.
That's true. Even explaining our daily routine can help them see how much effort is involved.
Exactly. Yeah, sorry. And because they are connected, solutions must also be holistic. You can fit time management if your emotional are in course. You can balance social life if you are insecure about self-worth. The foundations is self-understanding.
That's beautifully said. Before we end this segment, I want to highlight something that both of our panelists mentions: awareness. Most of the times, imbalance starts quietly. We don't even notice it until it becomes overwhelming. The moment we become aware of our habits, our pressure, our emotion, we will begin to regain control. Now that we have understood the cause behind imbalance, it's time to look at what happens when this problem is left unchecked. The effect. We often underestimate how much imbalance can affect us. Sometimes we say, it's okay, I'm just tired, or I will catch up on rest next week. But over time, those small sacrifices add up. Suddenly, the stress that used to be temporary becomes a lifestyle, and that's when serious effects start to appear on our body, our emotions, and our performance. To begin, Ashraf, you mentioned earlier that you used to feel exhausted and even disconnect from your friends when you were overwhelmed with assignments. Could you share a bit more about what the period of imbalance did to you, mentally and emotionally?
Of course, honestly, it was one of the hardest periods in my student life. When I overworked myself, I started to notice things I didn't understand at first. I became irritable. Small mistakes like forgetting to bring a book or submitting an assignment late would make me angry or ashamed. I could not concentrate properly during lectures. I would read the same paragraph 5 times and still not absorb anything. It got worse when I started isolating myself. I stopped going out with friends because I thought rest was a waste of time. But ironically, the less I socialized, the lonelier I felt. There were nights when I would stare at my laptop screen, knowing I had work to do, but I could not bring myself to move. That's when I realized this isn't just about being tired, it's burnout.
That sounds painful, and I think many students in this room can relate to that quiet burnout, when your body is here, but your spirit feels somewhere else.
What you just described, Sharaf, is something I heard from students all the time. When you're overworked without rest or social connections, your mind starts to shut down emotionally. The brain, when under constant pressure, realize stress hormones like cortisol. Too much of it over time leads to anxiety, loss of motivation, and difficulty sleeping. Burnout is not simply tiredness; it's emotional exhaustion. You start to lose interest in things you once enjoyed. Your creativity fades. Some students even begin questioning their purpose in life. They say things like, "Why am I doing this?" Or maybe I'm not good enough. That not a lack of discipline. It's a sign of emotional fatigue.
It's heartbreaking, but also eye-opening, because many students think that pushing harder means being strong, but it's not strength if it destroys your peace.
Exactly. I always tell my students there are difference between discipline and self-punishment. Discipline is doing your best while still caring for yourself. Self-punishment is doing your best while destroying yourself. The two may look similar on the outside, but the outcome are completely different.
That's such a strong reminder. Discipline versus self-punishment. I think we all need to hear that. Now let's go deeper. Ashraf, during that stressful time, did it affect how you interact with others, like friends, lecturers, or even family?
Yes, very much. I became less patient with people. When my friends ask simple questions, I'll get irritated. I stopped answering messages. My parents would call and ask if I was okay, and I would just say I'm fine, even when I wasn't. The truth is, I didn't know how to explain what I was feeling. I feel like no one will understand. Looking back, I regret the part the most, not communicating. Because when I finally opened up to my friends later, I realized they were going through the same thing. We could have helped each other much earlier if we would talk honestly.
That's so true. Sometimes silence makes things worse. We think we are protecting ourselves, but we're actually building walls.
That's right. Isolation is one of the most dangerous effects of imbalance. Humans are social beings. When we cut ourselves off, our minds start to amplify negative thought. We begin believing things like, I'm the only one struggling, or everyone else is doing better. This creates emotional distortions. And when that happens, your relationship suffer, friendships break, group assignment become tense, communication breakdowns. Eventually, students feel disconnected, not just from others, but from themselves.
That makes perfect sense. When you lose connection with yourself, it's hard to connect with anyone else. Let's talk about another effect. Academic performance. Many students assume that sacrificing social life will help them perform better academically. But is that really true, Mr. Alvan?
That one of the biggest mythos in educations. In the short term, yes, you might get more work done, but in the long run, it always backfires. Without rest, your brain becomes slower at processing information. Without social interactions, your motivation drops. Even grade falls. I have seen excellent students lose focus because they ignore their mental health. On the other hand, students who balance study, sport, and friendships often perform more consistent. The brain thrives on variety and emotional connections, so the best students are not those who study the longest, but those who study wisely.
That's a relief to hear, because sometimes we glorify suffering. We say if you are not tired, you are not doing enough. But actually, maybe if we are too tired, we are not doing it right. Now let's touch on something a bit deeper about mental health. In recent years, we have seen an increase in anxiety and depression among college students, including in IPG. What signs should students look out for, and what can they do when they notice them?
That is a very important question. The first sign is emotional numbness. When you stop feeling joy or excited about things that used to make you happy, they then come physical exhaustions, constant fatigue even after speaking. You might also experience change in behavior like avoiding people, losing interest in food and activity. The key is early recognitions. Don't wait until you break down. The moment you notice change in mood or energy, talk to someone, a friend, or a lecturer, or a counselor. Talking does not solve everything immediately, but it relies emotional pressure. It's like opening a window in a stuffy room.
That's a beautiful metaphor, like opening a window in a stuffy room. I think sometimes we don't need advice right away. We just need air. We just need space to breathe and be heard.
Yeah, exactly. And institutions also have a role to play. IPG should normalize conversation about mental health. We should not see counseling as a last resort, but as a normal form of self-care.
That's a great point. Hopefully, after forums like this, more students will feel comfortable seeking help before things get worse. Now let's move to another aspect of effect, like the professional side. Since all of us here are training to become teachers, how does this imbalance affect our roles in classrooms?
From what I have experienced, it really does affect. During my practical, I noticed that when I was working tired, I could not give my best to my pupils. I was teaching lessons, but my energy was low. Pupils can sense that. They can feel when their teacher is emotionally absent. On the days I was balanced, when I had enough rest, talked to friends and felt calm, my classes were completely different. I was patient, creative, and enjoyed interacting with my pupils. That's when I realized our emotional state as teachers directly shapes our students' learning experience.
That's exactly right. A teacher who cannot manage their own emotional will struggle to manage a classroom. Pupils mirror the teachers. If the teacher is calm, they feel safe. If the teacher is stressed, they become restless. So emotional balance is not just for ourselves, it's for the children we will one day teach.
That's such a powerful reminder. It means our self-care today is part of our responsibility as future educators. Sometimes I think about the word teacher is not just about job title. It's a role model, a mentor, a guide. But we can guide others if we are lost inside ourselves. That's why finding balance is not optional. It's essential. Before we move to our final segments, let's summarize what we learned from this hour. Imbalance affects every part of our lives, our grades, our health, our relationships, and even our calling as educators. It makes us lose clarity, patience, and joy. But by recognizing the signs early and by daring to talk about them, we can prevent burnout before it takes control. In our final hour, we will discuss solutions, practical strategies to restore balance in our life, both personally and institutionally. We will talk about time management, emotional intelligence, campus involvement, and how IPG can support students better. We have spoken about the problem and their causes, and we also face the truth about their effect on our mind, body, and relationship. But now, we arrive at the most important part. It's the solutions. This is our where we shift from reflection to action, because awareness means little without change. The truth is, balance doesn't happen automatically. It must be built step by step every single day. So let's talk about how we as IPG students and future educators can create that balance from ourselves, for our friends, and for our future peoples. Let's start with you, Ashraf. You have gone through that burnout phase and came out stronger. What did you do to reboot balance in your life? What worked for you, and what lesson what you share with others?
Thank you, Chris.
Yes.
It took me some time to realize that balance isn't just about dividing time evenly. It's about using time meaningfully. The first thing I did was recognize my priorities. I used to think that productivity means studying non-stop, but I learned that productivity also means knowing when to pause. So I began setting small, realistic goals such each day instead of trying to finish everything at once. I started using cleaners, not to pressure myself, but to give my mind structure. When I wrote things down, I felt less anxious because everything wasn't just floating in my head. Next, I practiced time blocking. I dedicated specific hours for study, social time, rest, and even short walks. It sounded simple, but it changed my whole rhythm. I realized that when I took short breaks to talk with friends, laugh, or exercise, I returned to my work more focused and energetic. The other big change was limiting social media. I used to scroll through TikTok or Instagram every hour. Now I set a specific time, usually after dinner, for social media. Once the time is up, I log out. It wasn't easy at first, but over time, it gave me back so many hours that I didn't know I was losing. And lastly, I started opening up more, talking to friends when I felt stressed. Before, I thought sharing my struggles would make me look weak, but it actually made me feel stronger because I realized we all carry something.
Now, Mr. Azwan, from your experience as a counselor, what are the most effective strategies IPG students can use to balance their academic, social, and emotional lives?
There are many strategies, class, but I will start with foundations, self-awareness. Most imbalance happen because we don't notice our limits until it's too late. So the first step is learning to check in with yourself regularly. Ask how I am feeling today. I am intense, am I calm? When you know where you stand emotionally, you can take action early, rest to talk to someone, or change your routines. Secondly, practice the management with flexibility. Many students make a schedule that are too rigid, every hour planned to the minute. When something unexpected happens, the panic or feel like fail. Instead, with flexibility, leave open space in your day for rest or spontaneous activity. Balance does not mean perfection, it means adaptability.
These are such practical and meaningful steps. I especially love the point about flexible structure. Sometimes we are too strict with ourselves and it becomes a form of self-punishment.
Exactly. The schedule should serve you, not control you.
Now I would like to touch on the institutional sides because while individual effort matters, the system also plays a huge role. Ms. Azwan, how can IPG itself as an institution support students better in developing a balanced lifestyle?
That are very important questions. Institute must start by creating a culture of empathy. Lecturer and administrators should see students not just as learners, but as whole human beings, the emotional struggle and dreams. One practical approach is integrating social emotional learning into the curriculum. Every course, whether it's pedagogy or language, can include short reflection moment where students assess their emotional and stress levels. This helps them develop emotional intelligence alongside academic skills.
That's so well said. Education should develop both the mind and the heart. Now, Ashraf, from a student perspective, what do you think IPG can do better to help students maintain balance?
I think communication is the key. Sometimes students feel scared to approach lecturers when struggling. If there were more spaces for honest dialogues, like open counseling session, mentorship programs or casual sharing circles, it will make a huge difference. Also, maybe IPG could create a small well-being corner, a quiet place for students to relax, reflect or even talk to peers. And I agree with Mr. Azwan. Fun really matters. Events that build friendship and creativity should be encouraged. We learn a lot about teamwork, empathy and leadership through social experience, not just books.
That's wonderful. I think every student here can agree that when campus feels like a community, learning becomes more meaningful. Now as we approach the end of our forum, I want to shift toward reflections. Let's imagine our future a few years from now when we are already teaching standing in our own classroom. What kind of teachers do we want to be?
For me, I want to be a teacher who my students can talk to. Someone who listens, who understands that learning isn't just about textbook but about life. To do that, I need to maintain my own balance first because I can teach empathy if I don't practice it.
And I want to see more teachers who are emotional, stable, reflections, and kind. Teacher will model peace, not stress. When students see a calm teacher, they learn the calmness in strength. When they see a teacher who smiles even after a long day, they learn resilience. That's how education shapes character.
That's beautiful. You know, as I listen to most of you, I realize that balance is not about having everything under control. It's about learning to flow with life without losing yourself. Sometimes we think strength means carrying more, but real strength means knowing when to put things down. As future educators, our role is not to be perfect. It's to be real, kind and self-aware. So before we close, I would like each of our panelists to share one final message, something they would like every IPG student here to remember long after these forums end.
My message is simple. Don't be too hard on yourself. You're doing your best. Remember that it's okay to rest, to laugh, to make mistakes. Growth takes time. You can be ambitious and kind to yourself at the same time.
And my message is learn to listen to your emotional. They are not your enemies. They are signals. When you are tired, rest. When you are lonely, reach out. When you are exhausted, breathe. Balance start when you stop fighting yourself and start understanding yourself.
Thank you both of you. Those words are truly powerful. On behalf of our forums commit, I want to thank to both of you, and I think I will end here. Thank you everyone, and may we continue to grow with balance, joy and purpose. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you. Thank you.